way, the question, when did you choose to be straight, is simple. Just like a consumer device has a factory default setting, so has our designer created us, male or female, with a default setting. Our bodies are designed to complement one another. Would you pump the gas into your car through the exhaust pipe?
That's flawed on multiple levels. First of all, our bodies and minds were not designed. Our bodies and minds evolved. It's a naturalistic process that is well documented. Now, you could claim that there was a designer intervening there. That's fine, but you have no evidence for this proposition. On the other hand, I can link you to innumerable studies confirming in naturalistic evolution by natural selection. It's easy to do. Anyway, that's not the topic of this video. The point is that you don't have any evidence for your assertion that we are designed to be like that. What we do have evidence for, however, is that the majority of our species ends up heterosexual because the genetic proclivities to be heterosexual will get passed on because heterosexuals are far more likely to breed than homosexuals and hence far more likely to pass on our genotypic information. This may produce what appears to be a default setting, or at least it's a default setting within most of us. But what about those who end up homosexual? Why would they choose to be homosexual when they would be oppressed so much? Why would they choose to be homosexual when they would have to face people like you? The thing is that they don't choose it. At least that's not what the science suggests. There are observable differences that scientists note between males and females in our brains overall, in general. Same with homosexuals and heterosexuals. They note these differences, and they're roughly analogous. So when you find these things, wouldn't one think that that might be a note that this is natural rather than chosen? Wouldn't one think that the different hormone levels would be indicative of this? And what about people whose morality and whose convictions and jobs rest upon them not having homosexual proclivities, yet have ended up breaking out in them and needing to repress them, like, Ted Haggard. You know Ted Haggard, right?
Once there was a preacher by the name of Ted Haggard who stumbled from the path, or you might even say staggered. He was 1 in a million, or more aptly 1 in 10. Some folks say he put the men in amen. He preached the gospel message of intolerance and self-loathing, traveled on his wayward way, betraying his betrothing. He was the soul of piety, and no one doubted him, until he hired a gigolo and used a pseudonym.
So if you look at that case and the many others like it, combined with basic common sense and scientifically verified data, one would think that you would come to the inevitable conclusion that being gay is not a choice, wouldn't you? Nah, we can ignore the facts. We've got faith. And on that pesky Ted Haggard business, we all know that
Ted Haggard is completely heterosexual. Glory, how he blew ya.
Next, this question attempts to frame the debate. To base morality on whether something affects you or not is to redefine morality. If this question was asked this way, would you agree? How will a person being raped affect you? How would a gay person being beaten up by a bigot affect you personally? Morality is based on a code of right and wrong, and not on whether it affects you or not. Would it be right to kill TJ just for the fun of it, as long as you are not personally affected by it? I believe that rape and murder is wrong, not because it affects me or not, but because some things are right and some things are wrong.
And yet, despite your statement on completely redefining morality, here you are the one who displays your shocking ignorance of morality and ethics. Here's how ethics works. You need a rational justification for something before you assert that it is unethical. Let's give an example. Under a utilitarian theory of ethics, you determine whether something is ethical by its effects, by whether it causes harm. Now, that's really what the question meant. It doesn't mean how does it affect you personally. What it means is, how does it affect anyone except the two people getting married, who it obviously affects in a positive way. That's why they want it. So, aside from the two people getting married, who is affected by gay marriage? That's the utilitarian argument. Now, we can find that there are several people who are potentially affected by it, under reasonable marriage laws, not under your hypothetical scenario under which churches are legally required to perform these marriages. Barring that, we'll find that the people who get married are those found to be involved, and they benefit. Then there's the children who may be affected if they are raised by gay parents. And we'll find that when the parents are married, that benefits. So if we allow gays to adopt, whether married or not, letting them get married helps. Then we also find that giving kids parents, whether gay or straight, helps. So gay parents, a collection of studies by the American Psychological or Psychiatric Association, I forget which, shows that gay parents are just as good as straight parents. The one utilitarian or consequentialist argument I have heard against gay marriage is that it would affect certain people by making them pay for benefits for spouses. But by the concept of equality before the law, because that already happens for straight married couples, that's something that should happen anyway. So if you're going to apply that logic, it applies as a moral, but really not a moral, more of a utilitarian or consequentialist argument against straight marriage as well. It's an argument against marriage, not against gay marriage, and don't pretend like it only applies to gay marriage. But I'm not a pure consequentialist. I, on the other hand, am a believer in liberal natural rights theory, or libertarian natural rights theory, depending on what you hold. I do use consequentialism as part of my ethical philosophy, but it's fused in with an overriding principle of natural rights. So that also covers your examples of murder, beating someone up, rape. In all of those cases, their rights are violated. The non-aggression axiom, the principle of self-ownership, all of that is shown to be ignored by the rapist, the murderer, the assaulter. In all those cases, an act of aggression occurs. Natural rights theory takes the principle that we all are our own person, that we get to determine our own path, and then develops a set of ethics from that. It's what gives both you and me the right to speak freely. It's what gives me the right to do as I wish, while you have the right to do as you wish. Except for cases where we violate each other's rights, or violate someone else's rights. So, if I were to murder someone, I would be violating that person's right to life. Were I to rape someone, I would be violating that person's sovereignty over their own body. On the other hand, gay marriage does not violate any rights demonstrably. Gay marriage is people engaging in a consensual action, engaging in a contractual action. It is something that natural rights theory, rather than condemning, would support. So natural rights theory and utilitarianism are the two ethical theories which I employ, and the two ethical theories which I have great respect for. What you seem to use is the decrees of ancient text are what give you absolute morality. That's nonsense. I'm sorry, but that's basically like saying I can simply decree that something is immoral, and it is. Morality is not something from commandments. In the words of Ayn Rand, of whom I am often quite critical, but who I agree with on this, a moral commandment is a contradiction in terms. The moral is the chosen, not the forced, the understood, not the obeyed. The moral is the rational, and reason accepts no commandments. So it's not your arbitrary arguments from authority that make morality. It's arguments from consequences, and arguments from rights, and from axioms, and from logic, and empiricism. That's how we get a solid ethical foundation, not from any ancient desert dogmas. Good day!